Father Anton will now deal with this presentation of the impact of feminization on teaching, predominance of females on staff. He would have had living experience of it as the ex-principal, yes.
Hello, everybody. Can I make a little plea as I begin? I had my Royal Bank notebook there. Somebody seemed to have liked it more than I did. And I had some notes and they've taken it. Mr. Robinson, is it you? I found the pen on the ground and the notebook is gone. So, Dr. Farrell, we have it here. They have placed me to speak about feminization of teaching and the predominance of females on the staff of all-boys school after a presentation like the one we just heard. The confession of a priest always seems to be a cause for great curiosity and anything else among many people. So let me begin my presentation with one. Unfortunately, though, I shall spare you though of some of the anticipated lurid details. There aren't any. I confess. That only 2 days ago, I decided to change most of what I had prepared. I decided to put aside all the research that I had been wading through in favor of a far simpler expose. Reason why? I made a decision to opt to bring the research with me if questions are subsequently, questions that may require clarification of what I have to say. So to a large extent then, I shall be relying on what experience in the field of education has taught me, since so very much of what is proposed by way of conclusions and suggestions from the research is not unknown to most of us. So we're going to arrive at conclusions when you do the research and say, well, I sort of knew that. Feminization of teaching and the predominance of females on the staff of all-boys schools has been widely proposed as one of the causes of the boys' problem. It has been considered globally at times as being the cause of boys' underachievement and poor performance. That's not news to any of us. It seemed a very obvious reason, but in fact, it is a very convenient it's a very convenient reason. And it is one when the obvious problem of male underachievement and poor performance had to be confronted. There was, and there still is, in fact, one salient fact in the discussion. And it is simply that females do outnumber males in the teaching profession. I think we should really keep that in mind. That is the only fact in the discussion. that females outnumber males in the healing profession at all levels, and that gap has widened even further in recent history. Suffice it to say for our purposes today, that here in Trinidad the current ratio is 70 female, 30 male, more or less. There's no point in us trying to prove that or to convince anybody that such is the case. We move on from that. It is well documented that from the mid-1800s and into the 20th century, the global trend was that females had predominance in teaching, especially on the primary and secondary levels. In the second half of the 20th century, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, there was a virtual flight from teaching on the part of males. From that fundamental fact then, there arose many assumptions, many convictions, even conclusions and views. It was convenient to think that that was the area that needed to be rectified. And if there was to be a turnaround in the fortunes of young males, that is where we had to look. It wasn't perhaps still an opinion uttered all around the globe. Let me share some examples with you. David Cameron. Does that name ring a bell? Yes, the present Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. As recently as 2011, listen to this, I won't describe the statement, listen to his statement. There are too many women in English schools. In order to restore authority in the classrooms, the presence of male teachers who can show both strength and sensibility should be reinforced as soon as possible. I see your eyebrows going up high. That's coming from a Prime Minister of a country. Next door to him, the once Prime Minister Sarkozy, a man of many words. Sarkozy said, there are too many women teachers in our schools. The situation must become more balanced. This is in 2011. You see how that notion persists. And it goes on to say, by reforming the whole profession, by offering a better salary, we hope to attract more men to the job. Lots of women become teachers because it's a profession that suits their way of living. They tend to work part-time, which causes many organizational problems. What we want are teachers who are 100% involved, not like you all, and who are better paid, but are also more present in schools. You're right to shake your head. That is coming from the one and only Sarkozy. No wonder he's no longer Prime Minister. Prime Ministers are not known to always speak intelligently, you know that. Even in Europe. In some of the literature, there are some other very egregious statements that are made, but I wonder if I should look at them at all. I think I want to leave them out because they'll only waste some time. I want to move on then from this. Yes. Basically then, what was coming out from an unresearched and basically a badly reflected situation was a lot of pejorative and negative statements that were quite unsubstantiated. I just read some out to you, and I noticed both males and females were saying, surprised that that was being said. That is the thing. I want to turn then to what I call later research. The later research has shown us that here in the West Indies, there continues to be good, painstaking, sober research. That is because our research comes after the very one-sided research, as I pointed out earlier. So we are fortunate enough here in the West Indies that our big research that has been done is sort of very current. And as a result, the mistakes of the unsubstantiated conclusions, we don't find them. One very good characteristic is that not much knee-jerk jumping to conclusions is done. Some of the myths and the misconceptions of previous research have been exposed, or at least questioned. I'm quoting almost verbatim from Didicus Jules in a 2010 document, a Grenadian educator who has worked on this. I'll come back to that a little later. I want to mention here Serval. It's quite amazing how little discussion Serval is given in all of this. I've lived with Father Jerry Pantin for all my years here at St. Mary's, and therefore I've had the privilege of talking to that very intelligent man over what he was doing with his life and why he made the tremendous change to leave here and to go up the hill at Laventille and found Serval. I think the story is well known. But what is amazing with Serval with regard to what we are dealing with here is that in Serval, the Adolescent Development Program, the ADP, was started. And what it emphasized was the people who are administering the program had to be trained. And they had to be trained into the socializing of boys. In the Adolescent Development Program, I don't know how many of you are aware, Father Pantin has now one of our good ladies there, principal of Southeast Port of Spain, mentioned the area in which you were. Father Pantin worked in Laventille proper. You know what Father Pantin got, what his educational program in the ADP was? One of the first things he taught the young men was to go to this part of the training was to go to the nursery and there bathe the babies, there wash and clean them. When they bawl, take off diapers and clean them. When they need something to eat, go and lovingly feed them. You know something? All of this male stereotyping and all of this female old talk went by the board. Father Pantin taught them, for the Father Divert I mentioned, a certain self-awareness. He went right back to the Greek philosophy, the four loves, which C.S. Lewis sort of modernized. He taught them that loving, which is the acme of a human life, he taught them that loving had to do with eros, instinctual relation. He taught them that love, the four loves, eros, storge, philia, and agape. So he taught them different levels of loving. And one of those was when you're bathing those little children and wash them and they're messing on you and they're crying for you to come and feed them, you got to do it. And you love them. Then you realize, but wait, loving is not something that I just go to grab what I can get. Loving is giving. That's happening right here in Trinidad. We don't hear much of it. I'm always amazed. It is a successful program that has been running since post-1970. So, without any shadow of a doubt, we have right at our doorstep an example of where the stereotyping, and you know, teach the boys to do that? The women. Those who know how to hold, Father Pantin told me once, you should see those young boys, some of them who are children, some of them already had children, cannot hold a baby. You have held many, haven't you? They were taught how to hold the baby. They were taught how to see for the child. Just one example of their training program. I want to show you, therefore, that it has so much to do with the curriculum, and that we have to really debunk this old talk forever about women can't teach men and the boys are not socialized. Yes, there is something in it, but we must never make it into the prime, a pillar of what we must do and we must not do. How am I, Dr. Tapian? You're itching. I see you itching. Yes. Some conclusions then, briefly. As I said, the West Indian literature is a lot more sober. And some of the conclusions that can be drawn is that there is no definitive indication that female teachers are a barrier in education of boys. It used to talk about it as the women peril. Dr. Mohammed, you ever heard of that phrase? Imagine it was once referred to as the women peril, but all these women teaching these boys. It's embarrassing to say that there are so many women teachers now. Another conclusion that we have arrived at is that there is limited evidence which suggests that it is not the presence or the absence of female teachers, but the adoption of a particular kind of management and teaching practices that make a real difference. Think of Silver. Silver doesn't ask you if you're a man or a woman, you know. They ask you, are you competent? Are you in yourself somebody who can deal with people? What values do you have to pass on? But Anton was extremely strict and some of these people weren't lettered. They were not lettered people, but they were tremendous teachers. Another. Single-sex schools, think of Cameron and Sarkozy and the supposedly bright ones. Single-sex schools may not be a solution, since the correlation between such schools and a successful project are tenuous at very best. Therefore, the convenient answer, put the boys with boys, let boys understand boys, males understand, male teachers understand. Not a solution. Schools must actively then question their stereotypical gender identity. I'm not going, we've heard that already, we're going to hear it again. Oh dear. I'll quick. Another one of the things that boys' under-participation and underperformance, they both, more and more the research is showing, they both have their roots in a few general issues and characteristics of societies as well as education systems. When you bring an 11-year-old child to a school like this or to any other secondary school, an 11-year-old child is already a tree growing in a certain direction. I always said we find it very hard, I tell parents, when you bring your 11-year-old child, it's not easy for us to turn the direction of the growth of that tree. It's not a sapling anymore. The direction of that tree in the time allocated to us and in the situation. Lastly, the research is showing more and more that changes in school curricula and processes are far more crucial than having male teachers or all-male classrooms. I'm going to get on to something that I did just in the last week. Rudimentary but interesting. I formulated, it's a rather nondescript thing, but I still try to do something, a questionnaire. I'll just give you the raw results because I don't have time, I haven't delved into them as yet. Dr. Mohammed, perhaps you can do the details for me later on. I didn't go to the Form 1 students because they are still very much primary school until they get the shocks of 2 more terms here. So I did a lower 6 group, I did a group of prefects, I did a Form 4 groups, the terrible ones as they are called, and I did a Form 2 group. Let me tell you some of the findings quickly. First question was very generic. Do you prefer male or female teachers? I think it's important that we hear the students' voices. Listen. Teachers of St. Mary's. Do you prefer male or female teachers? And they said, Fa, what do you mean by that? I said, no. You think about prefer, think about your experience here. You have met male and female teachers. The answers. The lower 6 students, do you prefer male or female teachers? The lower 6 students, 72.7% said, take a guess, they prefer, well, you must say that. Yeah. 72.7% of the lower 6 students, now these are the ones sifted out from Form 5, prefer male. 27.3 say male. Then I said, do you prefer male or female teachers in arts and in science? 100% of the lower 6 students said they would prefer female teachers in the arts. You're a scientist? In the science group, 54.5% said they preferred male teachers, but the females are 45.5. Interesting. Like what Dr. Mohammed sort of touched very much in line with what you said. Interesting question. Would you prefer to approach a male or a female teacher with an academic problem? And I made sure that came in. Academic problem. The answer was 72.7% of them said with the academic problem they'll go to the man. And 27.3% said they would go to the female. Now, would you prefer to approach a male or female with a personal problem? And I said whether it be a home problem, a male problem, or whatever. 36.4 of the lower 6 boys said they will go to a female teacher, and 63.6 went to the male. Do you view your teacher as a parental role model? No, said 72.7%. Do you feel intimidated by female teachers on staff? 63.6% said no. Let me just jump to Form 4. Dr. Tappan has his hand hovering over the bell. Yeah, Form 4. Remember who Form 4 are? Eh? These are they're in the yard from 7 o'clock in the morning, kicking balls, sweating, right? Do you prefer male or female teachers? These are the he-men, fulfilling all the gender things we spoke about. Do you prefer male or female teachers? 77.7% said they prefer female teachers. Do you prefer male or female for arts? 89 for female. For science, 94 for male. Not surprising. Would you prefer, interesting, Form 4, would you prefer to approach a male or a female teacher with an academic problem? Being males in Form 4, 77.7% said, what? Being males in Form 4, who would they prefer to approach with an academic problem? What do you think? Female. I asked them afterwards, when we were finished, I said, okay, now I could ask you some reasons. You know, they told me they listen better, they are more patient, they don't shout at me too much, etc. Therefore, they are a lot more at home. 77.7% of them, Mr. Balwan, the rough and tumblers, they are much more at home with an academic problem going to a female. I think I'll have to end here. Would you approach a male or female with a personal problem? 72.2% said they're going to the female with a personal problem. Do you view your teacher as a parental role model? 94.4% said no. No. I think I've done enough. The Form 2s are, but I give you a Form 4 and a lower 6 there. All this points us then in the direction of proceeding in a different manner when dealing with the boy problem. And that is what we're about today at the symposium. Let me just put up here Paulo Freire. He was the famous writer, the Brazilian, the Pedagogy of the Oppressed. That's a very good phrase from him. He dealt with a different kind of education. He talks, the big word in Paulo Freire is praxis. And there you have praxis defined by himself. I'm not seeing it too well there. Let me get to my notes. You could read it yourself, okay? So, yeah. Freire, that's practice. And then he goes on to say, and I think it's very apposite that we can apply this dealing with boys, the boy problem. Through praxis, oppressed people, put in brackets their boys, for the time being anyway, can acquire a critical awareness of their own condition and with their allies, put in brackets their teachers, struggle for liberation. Thank you.
Right, we thank Father Dick for yet another exciting and interesting presentation.